How's it going, everybody? It's Riley's Redzone here, back with another video, and in today's video, I'm going to be looking at the quarterbacks in the 2022 NFL Draft, and I'm going to give my take on who's the best. Who would I build my franchise around? And I'm just going to say it straight off the bat. This is a very interesting class of quarterbacks. This is a unique class that I think is different than anything we've seen in a long time. It's a very objective list, and I'm not going to strongly disagree with anybody who has a different ranking. So just note that, and also within these rankings, when I do mock drafts in the future, I think every team has a justifiable reason to rank these players differently than I do, and I would even pick, for example, in a mock draft, a different player than my number one quarterback, for example, because it's a better fit for the team. So this is going to be my overall grading the tape scores. Basically, I ranked them and gave them a grade, but the fit of the draft is going to come on draft day. Who is picking when, who's willing to take a quarterback, and they're going to have different reasons to take each one. So I'm going to jump right into it. I ranked 6 quarterbacks in this video. I really want to talk about these top guys. I felt that last year I watched like 20 quarterbacks and there were only about, I believe it was 11 taken. And so I thought I'd rather spend my time this year on the top 6 that seemed to be set among the rest. They're higher ranked. I thought I'd rather spend my time getting in depth with those guys this year. So I have 6 players that I'm choosing to rank today, and I'm ranking them purely off of my opinion, and I'm just going to jump right into it. I want to give a quick overview of the rankings. I'm going to reveal the rankings here, but then you can jump ahead in the video if you want me discussing every player specifically. Let's start at number 1. These are my rankings for the draft, and in a little bit of a surprise, I have Carson Strong from Nevada at number 1. A lot of people maybe haven't even heard his name in the conversation. He has kind of slipped down the board because of some injury concerns. So ignoring that for a minute, I watched the tape, and to me, out of these 6, he stood out as the top guy. I see him as by far being the highest upside, and I may be seeing a bit of the, oh, you take a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, kind of a underrated, high upside, strong arm guy who ends up being a future MVP candidate. Maybe I'm seeing that too much in Carson Strong, but I truly think his ceiling is unmatchable in this class, as a passer, I should say, overall. And I will say there is a chance this guy could be a bust. I mean, we look at what happens as well. This is not really, I would never call Andrew Luck a bust, but with this injury issue, Andrew Luck retired early from the game, and he was a great quarterback, but he ended his career early. And I think if you look back at it, I don't think the Colts got their maximum potential out of him. And we're already seeing with the Bengals, Joe Burrow gets hurt his rookie year. He got hurt in the Super Bowl. Lucky to come back. You need to protect him. And so, from a pure passing standpoint, he has a rocket arm. He can fire it down the field with ease. A little bit of maybe overthrow accuracy issues with that, but I thought his accuracy was actually pretty solid all around. He's a bigger frame, like a Josh Allen. He maybe isn't the most mobile, but I just think he offers the most as a passer. And so the big thing with Carson Strong here is the injury concern. He is ranked number 1 for me based on the tape, but there's something with, I believe it's his knee. I am honestly not fully understanding what the big problem is with the injury, but basically he has, from what I am seeing, various reports, he has like some issue that he's had since like high school. And it seems as though maybe it was kind of an injury that never got fully fixed and it's going to take a surgery. Or it might just be a permanent issue. It's like just the way his knee is built. I think it's the cartilage in between his knee. It's really weird, and I think that will unfortunately take him off some teams' boards. So, unfortunately, he could fall to the second or even third round, and he's my number one quarterback. Grading him out of 10, you can see the scale here. This is my first year doing official grades. Last year I just did round projections. I'm doing both round projections and overall number grades this year out of 10. He comes in at an 8.6 for me, as I think that without any injuries, he's a top 15 pick to me. If he clears the medicals and I'm a team that needs a quarterback, I'm taking him in the top 15. If there's a guy I'm trading up for, I'm trading up for Carson Strong. Now, I dropped him just a little bit. I didn't drop him that much because of the injury, because I'm grading him off of pure tape. I would not be surprised to see him fall to the second or third round, but purely grade-wise, he comes in at number 1 for me. At number 2, Sam Howell. That was a lot about Carson Strong, but there's a ton of stuff I need to justify that number 1 ranking. Sam Howell, coming in at number 2 for me. I am really intrigued by Sam Howell. I watched him actually in the summer last year. I watched a bit of him and Rattler, and I liked Sam Howell a lot. I thought that you watched that 2020 tape, and he looked really, really good. He has also like an ability to fire down the field when needed. That year, he did have some star playmakers all around him with the running backs and De'Ami Brown. So he lost his supporting cast this year, and I will say, regressed a bit. But I think that his offensive line did not play great this past year. So if he can get anything back to what it was 2020, you're talking about a top 10 pick there. But I don't know if we're ever going to reach that level. You watch the film, and I like Sam Howell's game. I feel as though he's like a borderline top 15 player. But I just get such a Baker Mayfield vibe from him that I really don't know if, looking back at it, for example, Baker, you would never take him number 1. Again, I honestly might see a similar career arc. I do think he has a higher ceiling right now, but I definitely think he's a first-round player. I don't think his upside is quite there with as much as Strong, but I do think, like, looking at the 6 here, I would probably place Howell's upside at about 4 out of 6. I personally think that he has tools in the toolbox. It's just what's the project we're working on, because you need stuff around him to make it work, and I honestly don't get a great feeling on just him being a star player, but I think he'll be a solid player. Like, if you could, looking back, get Baker Mayfield with the 20th pick, I think you'd do that. So that's what I kind of view him as right now. I'm giving him an 8.2 out of 10. So that's in that first round. I'm saying like top 25 range. I think that's fair. If you can get Baker Mayfield in the top 25 pick, I think that's solid. I have Malik Willis at number 3. He's right there with Pickett from a pure grade standpoint, but the upside has to put him above Pickett for sure. Malik Willis is the ultimate boomer bust quarterback in this class, even more so than Carson Strong. There's, I think 3 out of the 6, maybe even 4, are you're taking shots at the board. You're throwing darts, and Malik Willis is the perfect example of this. There is no other player to even half compare him to besides like Lamar Jackson, and I don't like giving that comp because I never like to compare it to Lamar Jackson, because we've only had one Lamar Jackson who's been able to do what he does and actually make it work. And I think it's the same thing with Willis as it was for Jackson, where you're going to need to build the offense around Willis, not bringing him in to a top pro-style offense. I don't think that's going to work. So you're going to need to commit to him if you want this to work at all. You can't put one foot in with Malik Willis. I don't think you're going to get any value from that pick. I'm giving him just a straight 8 out of 10. He, from a player prospect to me, lands in the second round, but his upside is so good. I'm not upset at a team, honestly, taking him a shot at him as the first quarterback off the board. I just personally would probably take him third, but it's totally justifiable to take him as the first quarterback, and especially in the 20s or so. I'm all for you taking a chance on Malik Willis here. I'm going to talk about him more in depth later, but I want to talk about Kenny Pickett, because Kenny Pickett is, I would say, the number one QB for a decent amount of people. And I'm going to be honest, I was not all that impressed by Kenny Pickett. Now, this is what I will also say. Kenny Pickett, if we're going off of the feeling, again, of what I get such a Baker Mayfield feeling out of Sam Howell, I don't get the same thing, but I'm feeling a similar tendency of what happened to Pickett from like a Joe Burrow, Mac Jones, senior season, last season, kind of coming out of nowhere with a big season. And those two have both played really well so far in their career. So I will say this. Pickett as the highest floor of these quarterbacks. I would say he is the safest pick in this class. But I'm not for safe picks, personally. I don't think he has a great arm. There's a bit of concerns with the hands right now, for what that's worth. I just see a little bit worse version of Mac Jones. And it's not like Mac Jones is unbelievable. He's solid. So I'm saying like a second round grade, maybe like very, very end of the first round. But I personally, he's not extremely mobile. He bails pockets. I don't see a whole ton here with Kenny Pickett. I think he is the safest pick. It's why he's above the two below him. But I think he could potentially just be a backup in this league. I just don't see the upside. I would rather, if I'm a team, take Matt Corral than Kenny Pickett. So let's talk about Corral. I'll get back to Pickett later. Corral. He was the second quarterback I watched out of these six. Ironically, now this is interesting too, and this could be, I have watched these guys I started watching Ridder towards the beginning of the season. So this could be, the more I watch, the higher I raise the level. Maybe it's been a bit, maybe I'll have to re-dive into those final two. But Corral was the second guy I watched, and I watched him and I thought, oh, so this is your boom or bust player in this class. And then you see Carson Strong and Malik Willis. And here's the thing with Matt Corral. His 2020 season I thought was nice. I like his accuracy, his deep ball. But it's so weird. He lands right in that second round grade because you have the good games of Matt Corral. Like, I watched him against Bama first. I watched him against Alabama. And he played a pretty solid game against Alabama. And I thought, whoa, this guy has a chance to be something. And then, I know it's older tape, but I look at the Arkansas game, and that was the worst game I think I've ever seen a player play in my few years here of evaluation. This guy went from like, top 20 pick, he's fallen to like a third round grade just from there. So I think you have to land somewhere in the middle. And that's why I'm saying a second round. And once again, it comes down to he has the upside, but so do Strong, Willis, and I would even say Howell. So on paper, you'd say, I'd be okay with Corral going in the first round over a guy like Pickett or something. But when there's other guys that have upside, I'm going to take the chance on them first. And then Ridder, this may be another thing. I watched him way first, like there was a big break. But I honestly, when I watched him, I viewed him like around the same level as Kellen Mond last year, to be honest. It looked like he had a pretty solid Senior Bowl. I watched the highlights of the Senior Bowl game, and he did perform pretty well. So he actually jumped a few points up for me. But I just don't see the overall security with Ridder. I think a lot of people are viewing him as a start now guy, and I personally don't see that. I think I talked about Malik Willis needing to build around him. You kind of, I feel like, need to do it with Ridder. Like, he is mobile. He can throw on the run. But I could not stand his accuracy at times. Specifically deep. He could not hit a target many, many times. And I really didn't like that. Ridder lands somewhere between, I think I gave him a Kellen Mond comp. I could see a bit of Dak Prescott too. It's just kind of a pretty mobile guy. You're going to need to build the offense around him. He's going to need great surrounding talent. I don't see the security with him. I mean, the whole point a lot of people like him is that he can run an offense and he has experience, but I honestly didn't see a whole ton that tells me I should take him over any of these other guys. So I'm going to rank him 6th. I'll break him down later. So let's now start talking about the individual players. So I'm going to jump into Carson Strong here. So we jump back to Carson Strong now, making our way back. And so he's a redshirt junior. He declares this year. Only 22. I do like that overall, that he is that young. Still has a lot of room to improve. I think if this whole injury thing wasn't there, I think there's a potential we're talking about a top 10 pick here. It's very unfortunate with that, because we look at his player build, absolute rocket of an arm. Even on the balls that were incomplete, like he gets it there. It is not a question with him. He can get the ball to the target deep, and I really like that upside with that. I think he is by far the strongest arm in this class. And I liked his ball placement where he could make some high throws, some low throws, sideline, back shoulder. I think he made everything work. Specifically the sideline too, just really, really good positioning. Allowed his guys to make a play. I will say somewhere in the middle between a strength and a weakness is his mobility. He does have a larger frame, so I understand him not being as mobile. I thought about like Big Ben as a comp at first, but he's definitely more mobile than that. He can move if needed. He can get a first down, but that's just not a strength of his. It honestly really comes down to this knee injury. I mean, I really love the way he plays the game, but this knee injury seems to be a serious issue, and I think it could unfortunately take him off some teams' boards. But I really think that if I'm a team, I'm taking him in the top 15. If he passes any of my medical, like if he passes the medical test, I'm taking a chance on him. I truly am. I haven't said that a lot of times about something like this, but with the other quarterbacks in this class, I'm basically saying this. All 6 of these guys. Okay, maybe Pickett is a safe choice, but his upside's not there. There is no clear number 1 if you kind of take this injury into account in this class. So you're putting, 6 eggs in a basket, half a dozen in the other. I feel that you're putting chips on one of these 6 guys. I don't see a large difference in the ability to become a top quarterback. Yeah, would I take Carson Strong first? For sure. I do think there is a gap, talent-wise. But in all likelihood, the probability, if we're going off of math here, I don't see a much larger percentage chance that Carson Strong becomes a Hall of Fame level quarterback than if Howell or Willis does. So what I'm basically saying, why I'm willing to do this in the top 15, 20 picks, is if I'm taking a chance at the board, let's just swing big. There's a chance in 5 years we look back and all 3 of these guys are busts. for example. Maybe even all 6. This could be the 2013 QB class all over again. And what did we get out of there? Geno Smith, E.J. Manuel? Like, none of those guys are still starting in the league. So I'm saying I feel that this year either all of them are going to be good, or at least 3. I'm saying 3 of them are going to be good, or 3 of them none of them are going to be good. So as long as we know that, I'm taking a chance on Carson Strong. Might as well swing for the fences. And so he has some overthrow issues as well. I would say his arm strength can come into play there too, where he'll just put a little too much zip on the ball. But this is the only player I'm struggling to even name basically a third weakness. He had a few turnovers that weren't great. In kind of his ball security, I think here's the thing with him. He'd fumble the ball, if I remember correctly, and he'd get the ball back. Like, he's willing to dive on it too. He has a toughness to him that I really like. Just the way he plays the game. I really get just this Andrew Luck, and I know that doesn't sound great with the injury history, but I see something in Carson Strong if he can stay healthy. So I'm willing to take him as the first QB. And let's look at some opinions here. He's my QB1. My value is top 20, given he passes the medical. I chose my comp to officially be Matthew Stafford, who just won the Super Bowl. Rocket arm, big frame, can kind of move. It's really all you need to know, is why I'm giving him that comp. So you can read as well the full profile. I'm working on a way to maybe get this profile. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know. But I basically have all these images that I've been working on over the past 2 months, but I want to know how to put them in. Maybe I'm thinking a PDF might be the most effective form for you guys to be able to see all of this. I think that Carson Strong has the upside, the toughness, the commitment to this game that I really think allows him to be the best QB in this draft. So that's my opinion on Carson Strong. I'm willing to take a chance on him, even if he passes the medicals. He's my guy in this draft at QB. I am taking a chance on him to be my franchise QB. Let's go to Sam Howell. And I talked about him a bit earlier. He's on the young side, which is good. He's only 21 years old, a junior. And I talked about it earlier, but the season regression was not great. I didn't necessarily love that he went from a really, really good player in 2020, kind of dipped off, but statistically, even with last year, I think he overall had the best statistic career of all these players, if that matters anything to you for what that's worth. His 20, I forget, it was 19 or 20, I think it was, it would probably be the best statistical season of any player here, but last year was not that, is the problem. So I still see the potential though. He didn't have all of his guys that he did the year before, and he was still making a lot of the same throws that I saw. I think that his arm strength, for what I was expecting, was pretty solid actually overall. I think he can fire the ball pretty well. Not strong level, as in Carson Strong level, but he can throw it on the run. I think that he's really good maneuvering the pocket, improvisation. I think he excels at that. And the deep accuracy is there. Specifically last year, I really think I saw some great plays to De'Ami Brown that were really solid, on the money and throwing receivers in stride. I really think that at his best, Sam Howell is really, really solid. I do think the biggest problem to me with him is he seems to be a running quarterback more than a quarterback that can run at times, and I don't love that. Although in this class alone we have Malik Willis, who's even more of that. We'll talk about him in a bit, but I do think at times it seems like he would just bail and just run. Now he's pretty quick though, so I mean it worked a lot of times, but I do think he needs to stick in the pocket a little bit longer. Now that would help if his O-line played better than they did in 2021. So it makes sense that he had to bail so often, but I do think there were plenty of times where it was like, okay, you're just going to take off immediately, and that's... It worked for him in college. I don't think that'll work in the pros, but he can improve on that. I have good faith that he can do that. I do think also there's just some poor picks at times that just kind of don't make sense. And also he fumbled quite a bit. I didn't love his ball security, but the overthrows are there too, a little bit, kind of like Strong. But Sam Howell, just it's hard to explain how I feel about him, because it's like, on paper, it's more of a feeling why he's not like a top 20 pick to me, because he has the arm strength, he has the mobility, he's young. I just get this Baker Mayfield feeling out of him, and I just don't know. I think, though, looking back at this, though, I need to say it again. If you can get a Baker Mayfield level player in the 25 range, 20 range, I think the Browns, if they went back, would do that a million times to get a Baker Mayfield level player at the 20th pick. Now, they spent the first overall pick on him, and I don't think that was worth it. It didn't work. In the long run, I don't think still. I know he's still going to be there, but I don't think it's really been great in the long term. But if you can get that, I think that would be okay. So I really think that given the demand, he could be the first QB off the board. But I just don't feel home run when I pick Sam Howell. I'm feeling like a triple when I bring that pick to the podium. I'm not walking away saying I think we hit a home run. I'm saying, okay, we hit a triple. We're good. We'll get an RBI hit this next pick type of situation. Let's talk about Malik Willis here. He might be the biggest boomer bust player here. Only 22 years old. He is such an interesting player because, like I said earlier, I don't like throwing the Lamar Jackson comp out, but he's better than like Tyler Huntley, or he's different than Tyrod Taylor too. I just didn't see any other guy that's even close to his skill set. And so I'm not saying Malik Willis is Lamar Jackson. He is nowhere close, in my opinion. I don't think he'll ever even reach that level. But it's the closest thing we have to Lamar Jackson, I would say, in the past few years. And so it's clearly going to be his speed. He's quick. He can run around. His ability to make plays off schedule, I think, is really, really unique. I think I described it in my write-up, but basically, he can turn what I would call like fire drill plays into first downs. And I think that's something that's a gamer. And I like a guy that can just play. I think those are the best players, ideally, in the world. If you can get a guy that just goes out there, doesn't think. Obviously, thinking's important. But you look at in the NFL, this is nothing bad against Kirk Cousins. He does his job with what you would kind of expect from him, but he doesn't do anything elite. He kind of takes the play for what it is, makes something work, but when the play is not what it was designed to be, I don't see him doing what Patrick Mahomes, even what we see now with Joe Burrow, what a lot of other quarterbacks can do. I think Stafford even did a good job of it recently. I see this with Malik Willis. Now, if you just watch highlights, this guy's going to be your number one. But if you watch the whole thing, he's going to land somewhere in the middle of the other quarterbacks. And that's where he lands for me. He was great at throwing at the sideline too, but I just don't know. It's another thing where it almost contradicts himself, because you look at what people said about Lamar Jackson. Like, you're not going to be able to just run around everybody once you get to the NFL. Well, look at what he is doing now. He is running around everybody in the NFL. And so, on one hand, we see that story, and it's like, okay, if you pull the card out and say, oh, you're not going to be able to do that once you get to the National Football League, we've seen it already defied. But at the same time, I feel like it's been a card also for the last 3 years. There's not going to be another Lamar Jackson, but is it going to be something close? I mean, right now, Malik Willis is probably the closest we've had. There's nothing else like him. Now, I will say this too about Malik Willis. A lot of people, I think, really think he has a top arm. I personally didn't see that. It wasn't a bad arm. It's definitely not a weakness at all. He has a good arm for this type. Like, I think that's a big thing with Lamar is he doesn't have a great arm. I think Malik Willis does have a decent arm. Not like best in the class level, but a pretty solid arm. And so his biggest strength is kind of his biggest weakness too, is the whole hero ball situation. He's going to try to make any play a touchdown, and that can work out in his favor, and he makes some crazy touchdowns, or he's going to just make some bad picks. There were plenty of plays that he just took sacks, and it was like so unnecessary. So I can see that happening as well, and that's not good. He could overthrow at times. His accuracy is just not overall very great. And with his arm, I just think actually the ball dies quite a bit, believe it or not. I think a lot of throws just kind of lost it. I think that didn't even get complete because it just, the ball lost it. It stopped spinning basically. So just a lot of ducks flying in the air there. So he's my third QB. I'm willing to take him in the first round. And I definitely am not going to criticize the team for taking him even as a top QB in this class. I think that his upside is almost unmatched in this class as a boomer bust player, but I think he could end up being a bust. As you know, you may be thinking Lamar Jackson's going to happen again. It might not, but at the same time, I think it could be. So I like Malik Willis. If I'm a team that has time, if I'm a coach with some form of security, a decent surrounding core, and maybe a veteran QB, I like the fit of Malik Willis. He just maybe needs some time. Sit behind somebody, and I think, just see him flourish in that situation. So Malik Willis is a solid choice. I think you can easily make the case he's QB1, and I'm not going to disagree with you on that. Let's get back to Kenny Pickett, who I talked about earlier. Like I said, I was not very impressed, given a lot of people have him as the number 1 QB. I didn't see that at all. He might be the safest QB if you're a team that, for example, I was talking about job security. If you're a coach with not much security, yeah, it might make sense because he's safe. But I think that in 5 years' time, we're not going to look back and say, wow, what a pick. Kenny Pickett was like the number 1 QB. Now, I could come back. That could come back to bite myself, as he gives off that Joe Burrow, Mac Jones feel. I see that. And that's why I get a bit concerned for like myself opinion, because on tape, he doesn't look anything special, but he just has the feeling he's another gamer, that he just goes out there, he does something with the football. Now, with the football in his hands is a whole nother conversation as well, given he has, like, he chose not to measure his hands, I believe it was, at the Senior Bowl. He does have, I think, small hands. And he wore 2 gloves. And I know that the only other player I can really think of is Teddy Bridgewater with that. And Teddy's been fine. And honestly, I see that's where he is. Teddy was taken like 32nd in 2014. I feel like if you got Kenny Pickett with a 32nd pick, that's fair. It's a safe choice. If you're a team with, coaching security, it kind of makes sense. But I just don't think we're going to look back and say this was a home run choice. He can throw it at the sideline really, really, really well. He's actually pretty quicker. He's quicker than I thought he would be, definitely. I thought he was going to be more of a pocket passer. And he can throw pretty well in the pocket. He's pretty accurate overall. Now, with the pocket, I do think he bails the pocket quite a bit, which is why the mobility maybe looks stronger than it is, because he is moving that much. But he's pretty quick, and I think it's a safe choice. He's accurate, but you see the overthrows, the hands and the gloves thing does concern me a bit. And then when he makes a pick, now he doesn't do it a whole time, but when he does, it is bad. There were some terrible choices where it was like, oh, that's not what we were trying to do, and it kind of bit him. I just don't think he offers the extreme upside to be worth taking as the number 1 QB. I'm personally not even thinking about taking him at number 1 QB position. Not even number 1 overall, but number 1 QB. And so he's my QB4. I'm saying a late first, early second. My comp for him for now is Mitchell Trubisky. A quick player who has some accuracy, the arm strength. I think that's where I see him there. So he's just a safe play, and I'm not for safe plays. So I could kind of understand a team putting him at like QB2 because you have an upside guy and a safe guy. Once again, I think it's going to come down to team fit. You're going to need to have a team with a good surrounding team that could maybe just plug him in right away. Like, he's ready to start for sure, but I just don't think he's ever going to have that top tier upside. So for that reason, is it even worth considering him to be a top 20 pick? I personally don't think so. So that's where I stand on Kenny Pickett. I wasn't that impressed. I think he is a gamer. He has that touch, but I just don't see the security even in that. So let's jump to Matt Corral, another boomer bust player. He's 23. I see the progression, which is nice. You always want to see progression more than regression or staying the same in college, so I like that. His footwork is what sets him apart to me. I think that's his biggest strength, maybe even his biggest underrated strength is his footwork. He just knows where to position him, and he can move pretty well, and he's got a good amount of mobility, and he has a strong arm. I do think that he has a pretty solid arm. He can throw some picks at times. Like I said, that Arkansas game, if you have him ranked towards the top, watch that game if you did not. That is what Matt Corral is at his worst. At his worst, he does not even, he didn't deserve to still be on that field. But I like Matt Corral overall. That was one game. It does hurt him a bit because then you see what he can do in a game. That's why you'll see the comp for him. But he plays hero ball too. So I just think a boomer bust player. I'm saying quick Jameis Winston as his comp because he varies game to game, but he's faster. He progressed in college, which is what I like to see. He can run the RPOs. But I just think there's not much security here. And if you're throwing darts at the board, you might as well throw it at Strong, Howell, or Willis. But Corral's a decent option if you miss out on all those guys, or maybe you just need a young guy to develop. I'm good with taking him at the end of probably early second, I would say, overall. So Matt Corral is a good player. Just maybe needs to trim down the variance in his play. He had one of the best games I saw and one of the worst games I saw. So I think if he evens it out, he could be a solid player. I think we could be talking about a top 2 QB in this class here. And last but not least is Desmond Ridder. As I said earlier, I watched him first, so it has been a bit since I watched him, but I saw him, honestly, as just a rollout passer, and I don't think that can be sustainable long term. He needs to improve his accuracy. I could not stand it at times. His mobility's solid. He actually can read defense as well, which is why I think he might be worth a decent pick. He can move around the pocket as well. He has a really good sense of when he needs to move around it. But the accuracy, I can't deal with it sometimes. And then kind of with that, they go together. He is not great at leading the receivers open. He's going to throw it where they are, which is why the accuracy looks so bad at times. You need to give him some leverage. And I wasn't seeing that with Ridder. I just don't know what the buzz is about, to be honest. I watched the Senior Bowl, and it raised him here from like a top of the 4th to a 3rd round grade. But I just don't see something crazy. I'm not willing to take him anywhere near the 1st round, for sure. So he's going to come in at QB6. I'm going to go with Kellen Mond as my comp, as just a guy who can move a little bit, decent arm, round 3rd round value. I don't know what people see in him. I just don't see more than like a mobile QB. I would take him in like the 3rd round if you missed out on all the other guys. But that's going to be my rankings overall. Let me know what you think. I'm going to hopefully get to some other positions soon. But overall, I think Strong is the best QB to answer the question in the thumbnail. I think Carson Strong is the best QB, but if he does not pass the medicals, then I'd probably give it to Sam Howell. But once again, each team's going to have a different reason. Even if Carson Strong passes medicals, I would not be surprised to see Malik Willis be the number 1. So those are my rankings. Doesn't mean they're perfectly going to be what happens in real life down the road. But those are my rankings for now, and I really appreciate you sticking this long in the video. Hopefully I'm going to get more videos like this out soon. And we'll keep working on it. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.